You know what I've been thinking about for, a long time now? The gaming industry, since at least the inception of the consoles, has changed drastically. And the funny thing is that you can actually pinpoint the exact time everything changed. Back when I first started gaming, especially with my friends back in, what was it? I think it was like my first console was N64, but I had the Game Boy handheld and everything, and that was a good time. But N64 and a lot of these other uh, gaming systems, the biggest draw was the fact that you would, well, one of the big draws for me at least was that you can sit and play with friends, and you can just have everybody over. You have everybody in person, so you can grab snacks, pizza. It's just like a fun get together. It's like watching football. Like you have a good time together, and that was like the a huge draw of all of it. But you don't get that these days, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that you there's an online component. You don't have to be in the same room to be playing with the same people anymore. Sure, if you bring out the N64, have a LAN party, uh, you know, that's a little different. But when it comes to like playing Call of Duty and all these things, oh wow, look, it's raining and it's oh now it's cloudy. But it's not necessary for you to have everybody over in order to play a game, like especially Call of Duty, especially games that have the big online components and everything. Like Destiny was a great example. Destiny was a fun experience, and I'm sure it still is fun right now. But the problem ends up being with a game like that is when your friend group like moves on, it's kind of done essentially, because like yeah, you can still do everything solo, or do a lot of things solo, but you still need to find your groups in order to do the raids and everything. And doing the raids with random people, it just isn't the same as doing the raids with the people that you trusted and had so much fun with. Or trusted could be a very strong word, because some of those people might not have been very trustworthy, but still, like, you get it. And you almost wonder why things changed so drastically, because it wasn't just the fact that it has online components now, because Halo 2 and Halo had their online multiplayer, and it was absolutely astounding for the time. That wasn't what the change was. The change ended up being that they figured out that, or the game executives figured out, they were getting crushed. And you might be saying, like, what do you mean that the game executives found out they were being crushed? Well, back in 2012, 2013, while everybody was cheering on awards at the Game Awards, which there were a lot of good ones at the time, they were probably sitting in their offices going, how are we combating this new gaming style and threat? And you might be like, what do you mean gaming style and threat? I didn't like if they all of their games were still winning awards. What was the threat? The threat was mobile games. Mobile games changed everything. And if you don't believe me, oh, what's up, little baby? Well, that's just unfortunate for you, isn't it? Because I ain't doing this. Yeah, yeah, there we go. I ain't touching that small guy, because he's just a bad time. Well, the threat ended up being mobile games took over an audience that they hadn't even thought about before. When you think about gaming, you think about the amount of time that you can sit and just, sink into games. And oh shoot, can't put myself in a position where I'm gonna die. Yeah, come on, get out of here, get out of here. You can't touch it. Bro. Are you... Okay. Got one. Okay, cool. Yeah, it wasn't... The thing about mobile games, it showed them there was more to the gaming industry than they thought. The mobile games took... Oh my gosh, I already got actually, you want to come with me? Come on. Mobile games took on an audience that they didn't even know existed. Because when you think about gaming, you think about people that sit down, they'll go to like E3 or Comic-Con or all that kind of stuff, and then they see that mobile games actually took on business people, housewives, like people that they're just sitting there going like, wait, what? These people would game? And it showed that even if they were only playing for small spurts of time, they wouldn't just play games. They would actually spend a ton of money on them. Now, I don't think that Wikipedia is fully accurate with these figures, but if you looked at the 2013 like highest grossing games, not in the US, but in highest grossing worldwide, you would see that all of the gaming industry got crushed by two mobile games. It was Puzzles and Dragons and Candy Crush, with both over $1 billion of spend. And I don't know if you understand how crazy that is, because it was beating established franchises like Halo, Call of Duty. Like, this was the first time that I saw that Call of Duty was getting beat out by anything, and they got crushed. I think it was like 1.3 billion of spend on Candy Crush and $1.5 billion of spend on Puzzles and Dragons, a game that I actually had never even heard of, which I think is just a me issue, because it looked like it was unbelievably popular in many areas, which is crazy. And that got the gears turning for them, because they're sitting there understanding that, well, they finally found out that, one, they aren't the only players in the market, and two, there is an untapped market that they can find, that they can tap into. They just have to find out how they can. But also, they saw how much everybody spent on the Apple Store or in-game purchases, and said, there's also an opportunity here. Well, if you are a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or Halo, how do you look at that and say, hey, what can I learn from this? How can I add this to my business model? Well, the answer is quite simple, really. The answer is that you have a battle pass. And also, you have the most annoying thing of all time, the loot boxes, which I'm glad that a lot of those end up getting banned, because they were essentially gambling. You don't want to have to deal with that. Like, really. Wait, I can make a... If anybody wants to tell me how awful copper is, let me know. I'm just going to give it a shot. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that was always that right there. Let's see. Did I have any more torches left? Yeah, I've got a couple. Let's try to go this way. So think about it for a second. Let me get a swig of my coffee. You can blame a lot of what people think is wrong with the industry on the fact that mobile games opened game executives' eyes to a new crop of, oh, there we go, even more, to a new crop of consumer. But the thing is, that consumer was always there. And one of the things it did do is everything became, somewhat available on the mobile stores. So it did a couple things. One, our normal games that we always play, like Call of Duty and what the... Huh? What? What? Okay. I don't know what to think about that. Okay. That was interesting. Those people always existed, and while it changed the way that Call of Duties and everything played, I mean, it's even changed Minecraft in a way. There's a marketplace within the actual game that has to do with different skins and everything, and it's not a bad thing, at least in Minecraft. And one of the things that I like is the realms, like, because you can always invite people to your world. But the biggest problem with Minecraft was that unless you were in the world that you started, like you couldn't, like you had issues with people being able to join unless you were there. Like you had to have somebody constantly playing in order for people to always be on. Realms changed that. You had a shared world that anybody could get on at any time, and as long as you invited them to it, they would have the link to join it. That's pretty good. So there were some good things that came from it, from the always online atmosphere. And while it watered down some of the experiences, like the Call of Duties and the Halos, because everybody was so focused on the multiplayer aspect, because that's what kept people on the game for as long as possible, so you can make more and more money off just the game. You also had the fact that these marketplaces are always live, and you're always able to buy stuff from them. And because they're always live, and because you can always buy stuff from them, the console wars ended. And you might think that's a crazy statement. Well, just look at the P&Ls. And you know what? I'll make a short about this just so you guys can understand how this works. But if you look at the profit, the 10Ks, like the actual investor relations statements that every single company has to provide, because, Microsoft is a publicly traded company. They have to provide these statements. Sony, publicly traded company, has to provide these statements. Even Nintendo, like, they're publicly traded, not on the New York Stock Exchange, I don't think, but they still have to provide these investor statements. And you can see that console sales are kind of just a tangential part of their revenue. It doesn't drive the revenue for the games sales. It doesn't drive the revenue for everything else. So while in the 2000s, you had to have your flagship products like a Halo or a God of War, you don't have to have that in 2025 or 2026. Excuse me. You don't have to have that in 2025 or 2026. What you do need to have is you need to have a working store. And this is where console exclusives don't really matter as much anymore. Because, come on, it is night. Console exclusives don't matter as much anymore because you don't need to have it only on one console, because you don't need to sell the console anymore. Selling the console is great. But because you can put it on PC, because you can put it on other gaming systems, you still are getting revenue based off of the sales of that particular product. Now, you don't want to have it exclusively being purchased by a PS5, so you still need to have a good enough console. But you don't have to have the console driving the revenue that you're looking for in the future, which has also led to the rise of all these marketplaces: the Microsoft Store, the PlayStation Store, the Apple Store, the Nintendo Store. All of these stores have been created because it's a money-making opportunity. And what's the last thing that they're thinking of? They're not thinking of taking anything off of their stores, because at the end of the day, like, having all of the possible, there we go, now we've got our wheats. So I'm going to be able to start getting cows, because there's going to be a cow farm, there's going to be cows outside. But you get little indie games that could become big indie games that are on there. Like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Epic Games that had Hytale recently and canceled it. In 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, that would have been just the death knell for Hytale. Because if you weren't going to have a publisher, then you're not going to be able to publish it. That's not true now. As long as you can get your game on Steam or any one of these stores, as long as you can get your game on Steam or any one of these stores, it doesn't matter. And you can do your own marketing to bring it to the forefront anyways. So you don't have to have the publishers. They're still helpful, but you don't have to have them. And you can buy the game back, even though you sold the rights to it, and then still release it. And I don't think you understand how crazy good that is for the industry. Like, if you want to talk about, like, stop killing games, well, they were made in, like, a disposable fashion over the last 10 years because of the always online components. And once that online went away, like, the game was kind of useless. But you gave the power back to the developers of all of these, like, indie games, and they're not gonna. What the heck is this? I've never seen this before. What are you? Firefly bush. I want some of these. Like, if you want to talk about stop killing games, that's how you stop it. You stop it by giving the games back to the people that really, really love the game that they were making. And they're never going to let it go. And they'll have a community that's never going to let it go. And they will constantly keep on making things better. Did one of your camel or things die? Sorry, dude. And that's just a great thing for everybody. Yeah, so I know I've talked a lot about all these ad nauseum, really, but I've been doing, because I've been doing all this and been constantly playing these games and always finding that I've enjoyed some of the older titles a lot more than the newer ones, especially if I want to play them. This is why. I have always felt that the older games were made more in a self-contained way, that I would always enjoy playing them. And that one wasn't fully done, but that's okay. And I'm not going to get mad at myself. And they were always done in a self-contained way that they would always be fun. And I think that's important, because I can always come back to them, always play them. Doesn't matter if it's Mario Kart, doesn't matter if it's Mario Party, I'm always going to have fun with it. I can't say that about the Call of Duties. Like, one of the saddest things for me about like the modern warfares, like the original ones, is like because it doesn't really have that big or robust of a multiplayer anymore, because you have to be hoping that somebody's running a dedicated server. You don't get that anymore. So going back to it, you can go back to the campaign, but you don't have the same full game experience, because it was the campaign, and then the titles that had zombies, you had zombies, and then that would be it. So it was only a shell of what it formerly was. You have to stay on the current titles in order to enjoy the multiplayer experience as much. But if I'm talking about Minecraft, if I'm talking about the Nintendo games, if I'm talking about, oh my gosh, I'm still like somewhat sick. If I'm talking about, like, God of Wars and everything, those are still perfectly fun. Doesn't matter what year it is. Doesn't matter when you're doing these titles. And I think there's something to be said about that. Anyway, I'm going to go make sure that I'm still doing okay. But thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a couple comments, and I will see you in the future.